So I'll cover 3 change drivers, which based on our experience here at Basis Technologies and my personal experience dealing with warehouse management systems, would ideally resonate with a lot of the audience we have on the call today. Firstly, let's look at the broader logistics transformation that a lot of companies are undergoing today. What you see here is a publication by Gartner. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Gartner's research and findings and leverage those to make strategic decisions. At the heart of this is visibility. More and more organizations are looking at maturing into a control tower based model and providing visibility to the broader organization. Of course, what this means from a tactical level is our change teams engaging in either adding or enhancing EWM transactions, applications, interfaces. Think of the various monitors in the warehouse or the RF mobile workflows. A layer outside of that really talks about how this doesn't only sit within the 4 walls of the warehouse, but that control tower visibility extends to yard management, transportation management. And what this means is that you might encounter a higher volume and a higher velocity of change to implement that strategy. And that's only on the system side. But if you take a broader view, there's networks of people, your carriers who handle your goods to ship to your end customers, or your upstream suppliers. How do you expand or extend this capability to the broader network or community of people? If you or your organization is doing any projects currently or upcoming that are in this direction, then it's highly likely that you're going to encounter a higher velocity and higher acceleration and higher volume of changes. And that is a leading indicator to evaluate your processes and tools when it comes to impact analysis. Another view, and this is based on my experience as well, is what Gartner also publishes. It's called the warehouse maturity model. I'd like our audience to visualize their own warehouse landscape. Starting from level 1, just to give a brief explanation, we're looking at very simple processes, either utilizing paper or a basic RF workflow. Taking the next step, you might depend on the software to tell the warehouse worker how much to pick, which location to pick from. And then as you move to the level 3, this is when more intelligent system direction starts to come into the warehouse workflows. Am I picking the right orders at this time? Where are my bottlenecks in the warehouse? Can the system intelligently direct workers to the right area? These are the kind of software enhancements that occur as you go from level 2 to level 3. And level 4 is really where you start seeing that intelligence expand to conveyor systems, advanced storage and retrieval systems, maybe even robotics. And level 5 is really when you're going full force into a highly automated warehouse. So if our audience, if you'd like to visualize where you sit in this, it could be if you're particularly in level 3 and 4, and if you're going the direction of level 5, it's highly likely the velocity and volume of change is only going to increase. And that's only going to require a more thorough review of the changes before they're put in the hands of the end customer. This third area is what I call the functional view. And many of you who are involved in the warehouse space are going to be familiar with the basic flow from inbound delivery all the way to outbound shipping, picking and packing in between. This is really the core space where EWM plays in automating a lot of processes, right? But it doesn't just stop there. EWM, like I said, if you're implementing a visibility strategy, will interface with upstream systems such as ERP, or downstream systems such as a transportation management system, or visibility systems are gaining a lot of importance in the last few years. Is providing real-time visibility. Let's say you're a food and beverage customer who wants to get track and trace of lots enabled within EWM for your shipping process in your customer service team. That could be an area where you could anticipate a higher level of change coming up in a future project. Or if you're a manufacturing customer, if you look at the inbound side, you might require a tighter integration with the production side of the business. And that's where most of your change velocity occurs. From my own experience, picking has traditionally controlled about 40 to 50% of the cost tied to labor in the warehouse. So a lot of industries, or rather a lot of customers, invest in optimizing the picking transaction, and that could be an area where you would encounter a higher volume and velocity of change, particularly in the context of peak season, when your operations team comes to you and says, I'd like you to implement a number of enhancements before we enter peak season, because that's where those enhancements are going to enable the operators to meet the higher throughput, the higher volume, and the higher productivity metrics that their management holds them accountable for. So just another food for thought for the audience to see where in this cycle they lie. That being said, we'll now dive into some more specific examples tied to the industries that we definitely have on the call here and based on our experience. So starting with food and beverage, storage is often a very common requirement for food and beverage companies who have to handle the complexity of cooler, freezer, and ambient products to put them away. So looking at dependency maps, and this is a concept that Simon will introduce later in the process and bring to life, but understanding the object by object dependency could be of value for a developer making a change to a very complex system directed put away workflow tied to storage. Because worst case scenario, if something were to go wrong and the onus then lied on the operator to decide where to put away a certain product, there could be a risk of the incorrect product being put away to the wrong location. We've talked to customers in the past who've had items such as ice cream melt away and cause financial loss. So that could be a key thing that causes disruption. Another disruption point is simply quality. If you're receiving goods in the warehouse from the production side, they need to meet a certain quality standard. The ability to reverse that transaction should they not meet that standard is a critical requirement and ideally should not be disrupted. So as you're analyzing your changes, one area of analysis to look at is what are the resources you might require to verify that once that transaction is reversed in the accounting or ERP system, that the entries occur properly. That's another area to look at. And then lastly, as I talked about visibility, it's ensuring lot level track and trace is visible to your customer service team as part of the shipping process, and disrupting that could cause customer service issue. So anybody changing that critical shipping process should ideally look at the impact of interfaces. And these interfaces could be directly to carriers or shippers that interface with the ERP system, and thereby not cause any disruption by doing that analysis correctly. The second area is automotive and manufacturing. And a key theme of automotive is driving efficiency, like I said earlier, in terms of providing or staging raw materials from the warehouse to the production site. And then once goods are produced and converted to finished goods, receiving those back in the warehouse for final pick, pack, and ship to the customer. In EWM, this is an exercise that requires extensive mapping and has a cascading effect of customizations across various tables. Therefore, using things like dependency maps, again, which Simon will bring to life later, can enable the developer to understand the connections between standard objects, custom objects, potentially external objects, and match the reality with what they're estimating and scoping. Another theme is sustainability. A lot of manufacturers now have overarching sustainability programs, and they rely on the software systems such as EWM to implement strategies. And one such strategy is called task interleaving, where an operator, once they put away a product, they're immediately presented with what to pick next from that location without deadheading back to their workstations. So the ability to deploy that change at the right time by looking at usage data and looking at when is the best time when my floor operators are either not picking and not putting away could be another area of analysis that you might need to do. And then thirdly and lastly, it's the visibility, which is again agnostic to so many industries. In the case of automotive and manufacturing, the customer service team and shipping might want to provide regular updates to your dealer network on where a particular part is in the supply chain, because your dealership is waiting for that part to get a vehicle back on the road. So any modifications to that process should allow teams to look at the impact to particular external systems. Now, they need not be carriers like UPS, FedEx, but they could be a third-party system. And then going a step further, analyzing if you need to involve a key resource from that vendor early to bless the requirements and design that you've created. Our whole theory, our whole principle here at Basis is to go left shift, meaning you look at changes or the impact of changes as early as possible and then make decisions.